requested this information from Deborah, and I just figured it out.
And I'm right here with you.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Totally, so.
And it was the week before. Good afternoon, everyone. The mayor's had to step away, but we're going to go ahead and proceed with the formal meeting of City Council for March 25th, 2025. Please mute all your cell phones, and if you need to sign up for public comment, please do so outside. At this time, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you raise your hand if there's an empty seat beside you, or we? Okay, thank you. First up, we'll have a proclamation read by Councilman Bo Hess, declaring March 2025 as Social Work Month. Mr. Kevin Rumley, if you can come forward, please, to receive the proclamation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We have an awesome group of social workers in the House, led by our County Veterans Drug Treatment Court Director, Kevin Rumley. I'll allow them to introduce themselves, and then we'll read the proclamation.
Thanks. Kevin Rumley with Veterans Treatment Court.
I'm Jerry K. McKimbrough. I'm the HUD-VASH supervisor at the Charles George VA.
I'm Jacob Pawelczak, an undergrad student at Mars Hill University, senior.
I'm Jenny Sheely. I'm in Asheville with a therapy practice.
I'm Adam Lewis. I'm a therapist at All Souls Counseling.
Cynthia Sheely, and I'm in private practice here in Asheville.
Melissa Wilson, also in private practice here in Asheville.
Kai Herschel, also here in private practice in Asheville.
Whereas social workers are an essential part of our community, providing critical support, mental health services, and advocacy for individuals and families from birth to end of life. And whereas social workers are the largest providers of mental health services in the United States, offering therapy, crisis intervention, case management, and support for individuals experiencing mental illness, substance use disorders, housing insecurity, and trauma. And whereas social workers play a vital role in child welfare, healthcare, aging services, schools, and the criminal justice system, ensuring that vulnerable individuals receive the care and support they need. Whereas social workers advocate for policies that promote equity, social justice, and access to services, working to dismantle systemic barriers that disproportionately affect marginalized communities. And whereas social workers in Asheville and across the country embody the values of service, integrity, and dignity, making a lasting impact on individuals, families, and communities. And whereas the city of Asheville recognizes the invaluable contributions of social workers and expresses a deep appreciation for their dedication, resilience, and compassion in strengthening our community. Now, therefore, I, Esther E. Mannheimer, Mayor of the City of Asheville, do hereby proclaim March 2025 as Social Work Month in the City of Asheville. Encourage all residents to recognize and celebrate the essential work of social workers in our community. Thank you. And thank you, guys.
We have a second proclamation this evening. It's the declaration of April 2025 as Parkinson's Awareness Month. Councilmember Ullman will read that proclamation, and Ruthie Frick, if you'll come forward to receive it, please.
Come on up, everybody.
Have mercy. Oh, wow. All of these people in front of proclamations.
Thanks, everybody.
Brother, grandmother. Terrible disease.
Me either.
This is fantastic.
And we're going to do the order a little bit differently. A lot of times we read the proclamation, then a guest might say a few words, but we're going to start with a few words if you want to use that microphone, and then I'll do the proclamation after.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I've never been told I need a mic. I'm Ruthie Fricky, and I'm currently on the board of the Parkinson Support Group of Asheville. Thank you all for your time in acknowledging Parkinson's disease. Well, I don't have Parkinson's. My husband, Ross, did. The Asheville Parkinson's Group was an anchor during his journey. He was not alone. Parkinson's disease is the second most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States, with many going undiagnosed. While recognizing Parkinson's disease on a national level is important, having local community resources is vital. Asheville Parkinson's Support Group is offering services to people with Parkinson's, as well as their family and friends. We offer monthly meetings covering topics as diverse as professionals presenting information on deep brain stimulation to personal journeys climbing Kilimanjaro with Parkinson's. There's a comprehensive website as well as a newsletter sharing information on exercise opportunities, small groups of meetings for more personal conversations, and a variety of subjects interesting to people with Parkinson's. We need to reach more of those within our community who are trying to cope with Parkinson's on their own, while expanding our fundraising and volunteer base for continued growth. We appreciate your awareness of Parkinson's disease and recognizing our organization's commitment in providing an outlet to those living with it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so whereas Parkinson's disease is a chronic progressive neurological disease and is the second most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States. And whereas Parkinson's disease is currently estimated to affect over 1 million people, and the prevalence will rise to 1.2 by 2030. And in the 10 counties surrounding Asheville, approximately 3 people are diagnosed with PD every week. Whereas it is estimated that the economic burden of Parkinson's disease is at least $52 billion annually, including direct and indirect costs, treatment, social security payments, and lost income to patients and family members. And whereas vigorous physical exercise combined with physical, occupational, and speech therapies can slow disease progression. And whereas volunteers, researchers, caregivers, medical professionals are working to improve the quality of life of persons living with Parkinson's disease and their family members who provide care. And whereas increased research, education, and community support services, such as those provided by the Parkinson's Foundation, Michael J. Fox Foundation, Davis Spini Foundation, and others, are needed to find more effective treatments and to provide access to quality care to those living with this disease today. Now, therefore, Esther Mannheimer, our mayor of the city of Asheville, proclaims April 2025 Parkinson's Awareness Month. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Maggie, I may need your help with this one. Up next, I have a statement from the mayor for Stars Serving Up Love. Is anyone else coming up, or should I just read the statement?
There's a bunch of, if she could come down. You want me to? Yes, please. She should go there. That's no. No, I was gonna say she got all that in her way. Yeah, just. She can probably, may need to wait just a minute until the people get out.
Okay.
Oh, it's the United Way.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me? So I'm going to read to you a statement that's actually from Mayor Mannheimer. She begins, "If you build it, they will come." This phrase indeed describes the efforts of a small group of Asheville locals who came together to forge a response to Hurricane Helene's generational weather damage. This group was led by a recent Asheville transplant, Jim Curley, a 15-year former director of the U.S. Open and a lifetime of tennis event experience. It also includes members and support from Explore Asheville, the Asheville Buncombe Regional Sports Commission, the City of Asheville staff, and the Asheville Tennis Association. The event they created was Stars Serving Up Love, and their efforts generated over $1 million in donations back to your community. In less than 2 months, they enlisted tennis greats Andre Agassi, Andy Roddick, Emma Navarro, and Jessica Pacula, as well as celebrities such as Michael Costa, Jeff Probst, Pete Wentz, and Essie Morales. In addition to the event, there was a nationally simulcasted charity fundraiser on the Tennis Channel and an internationally hosted charity auction featuring sports memorabilia and featured packages. The event even featured a match between our police department and fire department, which were competing for a chance to play against Agassi and Navarro. Esther says, "I had the privilege of sitting in the umpire chair and overseeing the latter match." Today, we are gathered to acknowledge the efforts of Jim Curley and the entire Stars Serving Up Love team as we give back to the 4 nonprofit organizations designated to receive portions of the event proceeds: the Always Asheville Fund, Asheville Area Habitat for Humanity, United Way of Asheville and Buncombe County, and the Asheville Tennis Association have representatives here today to accept checks to help recover and rebuild our community. Before we hand out the checks, I'd like to introduce Chris Smith, President of the Asheville-Buncombe Regional Sports Commission, and Jim Curley. The Always Asheville Fund aims to help small, independent travel and hospitality businesses, and as we know, many of these businesses were devastated by Helene. Here to accept the check for Always Asheville Fund is Michael Lehman. The Asheville Area Habitat for Humanity lost a tremendous amount during the hurricane. The Restore on Swananoa River Road was closed for more than 5 months. The organization continues to rebound and assist local families with building affordable homes in our community. Here to accept the check for Habitat is Andy Barnett, CEO of Asheville Habitat for Humanity. The United Way of Asheville and Buncombe County does so much for our community and has taken the lead in the recovery efforts, working hand in hand with the city and other response organizations beginning on day 1 after the storm. Here to accept the check is Dan Leroy, President and CEO of the United Way of Asheville and Buncombe County.
He's not here.
Kevin! The Asheville Tennis Association is identifying tennis facilities in our region that suffered severe damage from the storm and need help rebuilding. President Mary Ann Myers is here to accept the check. And finally, let's give all these folks a big round of applause for everyone involved who helped create this event, bought tickets, volunteered, sponsored the event, and worked to bring this event to life. Thank you all. You sure? Yes. Thank you all. Up next, we'll turn to our consent agenda. And Councilwoman Roney has asked that we pull items G, H, I, J, and K.
So I make a motion to,
No. Is there a motion to accept the agenda excluding items G, H, I, J, and K?
so moved.
Second?
Okay. I'll open the floor for public comment on all items. Thus far, we have one person, oh, I see now. 3 people signed up to speak. You'll have 3 minutes. The first person signed up to speak is Curry first.
Good evening, thank you. 45 seconds after the meeting started, we're doing a pledge of allegiance to the flag, standing up seriously. This item under consideration challenges a pledge of allegiance to the flag because it challenges the United States Constitution. I'm
Can
not
you
talking
move
about-
that flag,
Yeah.
that mic a little more center?
And, you know, this item challenges the United States Constitution. I'm going to talk about that in a lot of ways. And then right after that, social worker spoke, and the young man talked about, we serve the most vulnerable community. It's the vulnerable community in this community that's most at risk from this. I'm going to talk about that. I've lived in the city for 15 years, and not just in the city, downtown for the last 15 years. So I think I know this city pretty well. The item before you has an enormous number of constitutional challenges. And when we look at that, it's the Fourth Amendment and the 14th Amendment. And it talks about unreasonable searches and seizures. There's nothing more important. I was a lawyer 4 years in Milwaukee. There's nothing more important to this country, to this city, to this council than the 14th Amendment. And that's the Equal Protection Clause and the Due Process Clause. There's enormous dangers with this under that. And of course, it's the most vulnerable community. And I want the city to think about the challenges. Other cities have challenged the administration when they said we're going to cut off money. And a lot of cities have capitulated. Columbia, with $11 billion, capitulated on DEI and everything just to save 4% of their endowment. The mayor in Miami stood up and said, if we lose money, we lose money. Our integrity is important. So I want this council to be a little brave. The hurricane money is enormously important, but so is this city. A lot of this stuff is arguably unconstitutional. We've had 18 injunctions from federal judges all over the country in the last two weeks. And things like this are getting enjoined because they're unconstitutional. I don't know if you got an opinion from anybody, a legal opinion, that said this is valid under the 14th Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, in every way, this is constitutional. I think it's very, very questionable. And I want you to think about it and stand up and not just say, the administration said we got to do it, we're going to do it. So many of the things they've done are not only unfair, but they're unconstitutional, and who gets hurt? And at the end of this, they had the mayor saying, if we build it, they will come. If you pass this, ICE will come.
Thank you.
Molly Rickert.
And just for the benefit of people in the audience, we may want to just identify what item G is that people are speaking to.
She's speaking on item G, as in George.
Which is the,
Partially funding the Real-Time Intelligence Center.
Ready to go? Hi, thank you for being here. I too have concerns about upping the degree of surveillance and the ways in which it's going to, I feel, inevitably end up being used in unconstitutional ways. And I don't really know any way that we could expect to create something like this and contain it within the law enforcement of this municipality. I just don't believe that it won't be accessible to federal organizations that I think right now are pushing us into a non-democratic state. And we are already seeing so many transgressions of constitutional rights and human rights in this administration. People are being sent to other countries without due process. I don't know what this might end up being used for. It could be used to locate undocumented people, or indeed people who hold residential status, green card status, and are in danger of having that revoked. I'm worried that it would be used to track people seeking feminine health care because we just don't know what's going to happen. I don't believe that creating a more intense surveillance state is an appropriate use of funding when we're not paying our firefighters and our EMTs enough. I don't believe that surveillance cuts down on crime. I don't believe it necessarily solves crime. I think the things that prevent crime are social programming, making sure people have affordable food, affordable health care, and affordable places to live. I think that having first responders that are not necessarily police, people well-versed in mental health care, well-versed in de-escalation, that is going to create better things. I would like to see any funding that would be put towards this. I mean, first and foremost, pay our EMTs a living wage. I work at a bookstore and they make less than I do. And I don't make enough. So I just have immense concerns. It feels dystopian enough. It feels like we are losing our democracy hand over fist in real time in front of our eyes. And I don't want to capitulate ahead of time to what's essentially looking like a fascistic, oligarchical government. So I just have real concerns with the same things that he does. So thank you for your time, and I'll be back.
Thank you. Kelly Redfern?
Hi, I wanted to speak about designating the city a high drug traffic area city and then giving grants for how to handle that. And I want to speak as an advocate for Madness and being 20 years in recovery and serving my population as a peer support voluntarily weekly in places like Asheville Poverty Initiative and the Haywood Congregation. And I want to encourage you that if we're going to name that, then let's name that the EMTs with Port, they only have one peer support on their team. They need more. They need more in the budget, that if you're going to budget for that in the grant, that you also give the opportunity for budgeting for specialized peer supports, being just like bridge housing was suggested by the HUD tech, Samantha, that came and had a workshop for us. They said that's what was missing in the city, and that's that bridge. And I encourage you to make budgeting, to pay on a payroll for city representatives that the bid department could use as advocates for Madness or for recovery, and that peer support is growing large. I was just at a huge conference for mental health and wellness that you gave an award to today. And honestly, in that audience where I spoke, there were EMT workers that broke down afterwards and talked to me one-on-one who are already experiencing trauma themselves. And they're not allowed to talk about it on the job. And there's teams like Seek Healing that could do professional listening for these teams in the city. And I volunteer with them, and I know that it to be true because it was at that time that we presented on this subject and how to make teams stronger within your Department of Health and Human Services. If you designate this money for a high traffic area, then we build the opposite of the yin to the yang, in that if it's going to be alerted as more crime and you do need to observe from the sky with drones, then like, how do we counteract that? And it's really, the crime will reduce if you handle the trauma that all these people have. If the EMTs have trauma, what do you imagine the actual victims or the predators have? And their adverse childhood experience that caused it, or their incarceral trauma that caused it, that Philip Cooper worked so hard in Operation Gateway. Make money for that team as well. Let's recognize that if we're gonna name it as a high drug traffic area, that we balance the equation by putting money in the right place with this grant funding, and that we're being sure to take care of your own and your own team. Port that handles the city and shows up for overdoses, and all that strong team of Pip and Erica and Sarah that run that team, Sarah Norris that's brilliant over at Haywood. Like, let's make sure to beef up those teams.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, folks, that's all the folks we have signed up to speak under the consent agenda, and I'm sorry, I missed the beginning.
If I might add some of my own comments before we move forward on items G through K, since I asked them to be pulled.
Can I just catch up just 1 second? Are we on the motion to approve everything but those
Yes.
items?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to wait till we do the motion for that one?
Sure.
Okay. So
You
were
have
you
a
gonna,
motion, you have a motion and a second right now, Mayor.
for everything but
Everything
items
but.
G, H, I, J, K, right? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, do I have a motion to approve items G, H, I, J, K, and their subparts?
Can we do it individually? Because I have a question based on the comments that were made on item G. It feels, we usually have this conversation during public safety, so we can, ask all the questions and get feedback from the community as well as our law enforcement professionals, but I kind of feel robbed of having those conversations in this decision tonight. So is there any way?
Should we do HIJK?
Yeah.
Okay. Do
We
we
can
have
do
a
that.
motion to approve HIJK?
Yeah. Well, you need a motion in a second, then I'll comment.
You look like you're about to move.
I move to accept items H, I,
HIJ.
J, and K.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion
So then
and a
I'll
second.
offer my comments. So there, regarding item G and real-time intelligence, there are significant legal and social concerns about real-time intelligence and companies like Fuchsia's, including 29 questions I compiled and submitted to staff and my colleagues on council in the absence of, as Councilmember Smith noted, advisory committee meetings and council committees for input on what it means for our community. I spoke with legal experts and agree that more time is needed for analysis and recommended we delay this vote to a future agenda. And I wondered if anyone shared my concerns during this moment, especially around the security of data and privacy of our residents and the implications of how this federally funded equipment might not be exclusively used by our staff. Regarding items H through K, bulletproof vests are a necessary tool for our police department. My votes on items H through K reflect my continued commitment to prioritize funding to bring a HEART program to Asheville with a community safety department like Durham and now Fayetteville. We don't have that yet, but we need it, as well as my concern about the lack of adequate funding for qualified specialists to be deployed to the real serious public safety issues we have around behavioral health crises, substance use, homelessness, and the need to reduce intimate partner violence and gun violence among our youth with proven root cause solutions. These crises are not yet a budget priority, frankly, but I hear the community expects they should be. And that's why I'm fiscally and morally responsible to use the weight of my vote to put pressure on the rudder of the ship, to move us in a direction for transparency and accountability in our budgets, plans, and policies, and to invest in a hopeful, healthy, and safe future for the people who live, work, and visit Asheville. Thank you for this time.
Just to be clear, the Real-Time Intelligence Center already exists. We're not buying surveillance. We're buying chairs and workstations for the officers to do their job. And when I speak to the BIPOC and LGBTQIA folks out there, they're in fact the most vulnerable to vigilante violence. And when you actually responsibly deploy technology like drones and real-time intelligence, what you do is you actually de-escalate the risk for officers and our citizens. You're removing the need to send an officer blindly into a dangerous situation, and that lowers the chance of use of force incidents. But Councilmember, I'm so glad you actually brought up Durham, because I did my own research and I respect what Durham is doing, but let's not cherry pick, because Durham uses Real-Time Intelligence Center. They use ShotSpotter, they've integrated tech and public health together. They didn't throw out public safety, they modernized it. And that's what we're doing here in Asheville too. I don't think we can praise Durham's HEART program and ignore the fact that they also use the same things that we are using here to make our citizens better. Durham embraced data-driven public safety tools, and they partner alongside their community navigators to enhance policing and public health approaches. The real-time intelligence style systems are integrated with their gun violence prevention and domestic violence prevention initiatives, especially in those vulnerable neighborhoods that were requesting help. So Durham's HEART program works alongside law enforcement, not instead of. And I think that's important to understand. We need to be truthful with our constituents. This already exists, and this actually de-escalates risk. And I have my own prepared statement on this. Thank you, Councilmember Roney, for your continued commitment to discussing public safety and community well-being. And I appreciate any dialogue that centers on how we protect and serve Asheville's residents. And that said, I believe it's important for us as leaders to ground these conversations in transparency, facts, and collaboration, not fear or misinformation. Let me be absolutely clear. The city of Asheville is not spending discretionary local funds on the grants in question. These are federal grants and designated resources we've pursued to enhance safety and capacity resources our officers, first responders, and community have asked for and need. Let's talk specifics. The DRAG grant helps outfit our real-time intelligence center, which already exists. The funding buys basic infrastructure like desks, chairs, workstations. It's already been established and has already helped apprehend dangerous individuals quickly, often in places where our most vulnerable live, along the greenway, in abandoned lots, and near shelters. That request didn't come from the government, but from women, BIPOC, and LGBTQIA residents. I'm not ready to dismiss those voices. The Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant will provide critical safety gear to officers whose vests are expiring. This protects the people who protect us. As public servants, we have a duty to ensure their safety, especially when 50% of the cost is covered by the DOJ. 3, the headset equipment for our emergency response team is essential for communication during natural disasters and rescues, like during Hurricane Helene. These are modest investments with major impacts in saving lives. The High Impact Drug Trafficking Area grant targets regional, high-level trafficking operations. This isn't about criminalizing addiction or low-level possession. Asheville acts only as the fiduciary for a multi-agency WNC task force. This helps keep methamphetamine and fentanyl from devastating our neighborhoods. I know firsthand what methamphetamine and fentanyl do to our families here in Asheville because I work on a psychiatric unit where I see it every single day. The recruitment contract we're renewing has already brought in 30 new cadets and is essential to closing our staffing gap. We have 67 vacancies, and with continued momentum, we can have a fully staffed, well-trained force ready to serve the entire city. Public safety and community care are not mutually exclusive. I support our firefighters, our community paramedics, and yes, our police officers. Over 95% of our APD officers are trained in crisis intervention for mental health, addiction, and de-escalation, and that's something we should be proud of. We are building a holistic model, supporting first responders, expanding shelter beds, strengthening partnerships with the county, investing in violence interrupters, and keeping neighborhood grants at current levels to ensure boots on the ground programming continues. We are doing this while recovering from a major storm and under budget constraints. I support a conversation about Heartlight programs in Asheville, but let's not pretend we're doing nothing. We are doing the work. What we need is not more division, but good governance and collaboration. Let's come to the table with solutions and not just slogans. Our residents want safe streets, supportive services, thriving wages for first responders, and trust in government. And that takes us all to work together for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bo. Since you named me and also implied that I'm not telling the truth is that we are cutting the neighborhood grants. We're also cutting and eliminating, unless something changes, the strategic partnership funds, which provide funds for our youth. We also have $1.2 million in new tax dollars for a business improvement district downtown. And the need that was named was increased safety in our community, and safety has been explicitly cut from that program because I was in the same meeting that you were last week. Additionally, yes, Durham has a lot more tools than we do right now, but we are not funding behavioral health crisis, homelessness, and intimate partner violence and youth violence programs like we could, because we do just keep doing business as usual. Obviously, this conversation needs to continue, and I look forward to our council committees returning.
Thank you. So the neighborhood collaboration grants, so we just cut them at the level that they were used in this past year. So we had extra money in that fund, so we cut them to the level that they were used.
And additionally, about the Real-Time Intelligence Center, do you share any concern that the data in other cities is showing that it will be potentially used not only by our police department, but can also be used by the company that we contract with?
Does anyone want to, it seems like we might need a correction on the information provided there.
This is why I would suggest that we delay it to another meeting.
I don't know that we need to do that. The chief is right here. He can speak to that issue. And I will, we aren't in a candidate forum, so I don't, I know, so we'll try not to name each other and then get a response or whatever. But I'm just, I am a lawyer trained in debate. That's how you're supposed to do it. But this is a council meeting, so I would just encourage all of us to express our concerns and opinions as us as individuals. But anyway, whatever. This is kind of a new format for me. Yes, please, Chief.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the Real-Time Intelligence Center.
Do you want to, can you speak to the issue about the data being available to the company that provides the service?
So thankfully, we were able to get some of the answers to the 29 questions that Councilwoman Roney provided to us yesterday afternoon. And we were able to answer several of them, not all of them, because some of them are questions that need to be answered by legal as far as any kind of civil liability or anything like that. But let me find the question that we had about providing data to other law enforcement, or specifically not other law enforcement agencies, because we currently share data back and forth with, and footage back and forth with the sheriff's office and other local partners. So we have a good partnership now with the sheriff's office and their Real-Time Intelligence Center.
Do we currently have our real-time intelligence center set up the way that the sheriff's is set up? Because I know that was a request last summer that I still have an outstanding question from the city manager's office about.
Yeah, so we currently partner with the sheriff's office with their Real-Time Intelligence Center, and we also do have license plate readers that are deployed out in our patrol cars. And then we do have some cameras that are out in the field currently. So we do have a lot of the hardware that we need for the Real-Time Intelligence Center. We don't necessarily have the FUSA software yet, or the finalized agreement with Axon as far as managing the data, because all that data has to go within the Axon system so that it's accessible to us, our officers, and also the district attorney's office and legal partners that we have.
So with the funding that we requested through the federal government last summer, have we received the funding to set up that system?
We have not yet, no. Let me see the one about
The sharing of the data.
sharing of the data.
Yeah, the data actually belongs.
If you could introduce
Oh, yes.
yourself.
Sorry.
I'm Jimmy Wingo. I'm the technology specialist at the police department. And the data actually belongs to the private person, the private sector, business owner, or citizen, unless it is like a city-owned camera. And then, of course, it would be owned by the city. But if the data actually belongs to that person, and they have the ability to give us the rights to see it or to use it, and they can change that right at any time.
So this is something the public may not be aware of, but the combination of private and public camera and metadata is part of the conversation that a lot of communities are having. Whether it's businesses or the Ring camera at your home, it can be optioned to feed into the public's real-time intelligence center data.
It can be fed into it with your permission and the permission of the company, such as Ring. You would have to get permission from Ring and yourself if you own the camera. You also have the rights to turn it off, to limit what we see or what we don't see. There's two different kinds. There's a registry, just so we know where a camera is in the city. And then there's also one where you could provide us full, viewing capability. A lot of people don't do that across Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham, San Francisco.
And yet we have local cases where Ring camera footage was required to be turned over for the court system. So it's not necessarily that it belongs just to you.
That's true, but anything the court rules, I mean, that's not, if the court comes to your house and has a warrant for that Ring camera footage, then you would have to give it to us.
So the current laws would be one thing, but in the future, if for some reason the federal government were to say to be looking for someone who was undocumented, we haven't yet lived in that reality, but I am prepared to have to.
Yes, I would agree that we're not living in that now, but I see what you're saying.
Thank you.
It seems like every time we have this conversation, there are more questions coming from council or either the community. So whether it's a major technological advancement or something as small as equipment, I would just appreciate if we can bring the conversation through committees first, so that people can air all of their issues or get their answers, their questions answered. And then we can move it here and go through our procedure then. But there are a lot of questions generating about people's safety, people's privacy of their identity and how information is shared. I think we just need to have that community forum through committee before we come here.
And just for clarification, there was a discussion, and I know it's been a while. It has been a while.
So there's been a lot of stuff that's happened since September 24th. I mean, I think we all can agree on that. So we had an informational discussion during that Environment and Safety Committee. There was not a vote during that time, but we at least had the initial discussion. But of course, that was, 3 days before the storm hit. So, because initially it was going to go to council a lot earlier. So unfortunately, beyond circumstances beyond our control, had to be paused. And so that's why we're here today.
Okay, any other questions while we have these folks up here? I feel like everyone's glaring at me. That's it, right? Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve items H, I, J, and K on our consent agenda. Everybody ready to vote? I think I'm going to do a hand vote, right? Everybody ready to raise? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. And then finally, could I have a motion to approve item G1 and G2 on the consent agenda? I'm going to give the motion to Bo because he made such an impassioned speech. Do you accept?
I'm so moved.
Okay, thank you. Maggie, you look like
Second.
you're ready to second. Okay, I'm just handing them out now. All right. Any other questions, comments? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, thank you. That concludes the consent agenda. We have one other item on our formal agenda this evening, and that is the manager's report, employee recognitions.
As we are getting the technology up, good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, those in attendance at the meeting tonight, and those joining us virtually. I have a brief manager's report this evening. As you all hopefully know, one of my favorite things to do as part of my manager's report is to shout out and share personal achievements, awards, and recognitions bestowed on our city employees, as well as to recognize them for the hard work they are doing in this community and in other communities across the country. Now, I'm going to try to drive this oh, I knew it. Okay, sticky hands. All right, here we go. So tonight, I'd like to recognize water resources staff that received an award from the Asheville Rotary Club. And lastly, highlight the numerous deployment assignments of the Asheville Fire Department over the last several months to support numerous other communities in their disaster efforts. I'm going slow. Okay, let's start by thanking the Asheville Rotary Club for the acknowledgement and recognition of the Asheville Water Resources Department. The department received the Rotary Club's 2025 People of Action Water Sanitation and Hygiene Award. On March 3rd, Director David Melton accepted the award on behalf of the Asheville Water Resources Department, the City of Asheville, and the many individuals, agencies, contractors, and community members who united to restore potable water following Tropical Storm Helene. The department guided a coordinated response involving local and federal agencies, nonprofits, and private contractors to rebuild water infrastructure across the county. Heroes at every level worked tirelessly to assess the damage, engineer emergency and long-term solutions, and rebuild vital water infrastructure critical to Asheville and the surrounding communities. I want to thank them for their dedication. Potable water was restored in just 57 days. And thanks again to the Asheville Rotary Club for recognizing the hard work of our Water Resources Department. And they also wanted to shout out their appreciation not only to David Melton and the Water Resources Department, but also to our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Ben Woody. David, would you like to have some comments or not?
I Well, it was David Melton, Director of Water Resources. Pleasure to be here. It was quite an honor to be able to accept this award on behalf of not only this council for the support, city manager's office, and all the other departments in the city. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. And now, I'd like to acknowledge the Asheville Fire Department and the numerous assignments and communities they have supported over the past 3 months. I don't want to take away from the chief's, I guess, messages, but I would like to say, considering the support we received during and after Tropical Storm Helene, we are honored to be able to support other communities in their time of need. And I now would like to invite our chief to provide us with an explanation of the enormous amount of work that we have been doing over the past just 3 months, since January of 2025.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Campbell. And I always like to start this by saying it's hard to follow Dave Melton and the monument task that he did a few months ago by bringing water back to us that quickly. But I'm here to represent our firefighters and be proud of what our firefighters have done. I've brought our Special Operations Chief with us, Division Chief Wes Waters. He can answer some of the questions you may have on this. But I just want you to see how busy our firefighters have been since January, not even since the storm. It wasn't bad enough that we were busy in the storm, but you can see this long list of our firefighters deploying outside of the city of Asheville for assistance. In this first list here, you have in January, we had 12 firefighters that were put on call to deploy to the state of California for the California wildfires. That was at the request of the state of California through the Los Angeles County. Those firefighters that were fighting that wildfire were here in Asheville back in September and October as part of the rescue efforts here. So it was kind of we were very proud to be able to support them if they needed us. Again, we were on call for 30 days from that. We did not deploy, just so we're clear there, but our firefighters were prepared, prepped, had the gear, had the equipment all stocked up in vehicles ready to roll. On January 29th of 2025, 2 of our firefighters deployed with our Field Communications Unit, which is a very specialized unit that we have within the Asheville Fire Department that allows us to communicate when there is no active cell networking, when everything is down, as what occurred to us during Helene. So this unit brings communications to local communities, local emergency responders, and surely is a huge asset to have within our community, but we get value in bringing it to other organizations as well. In February of 2025 here, 11 of our firefighters went to Middlesboro, Kentucky as they went through another severe flooding event similar to what we went through. Our Swiftwater team deployed there for 5 days. They saved 8 lives that were in peril and would not be here today had it not been for our firefighters being present in that community, and provided humanitarian aid to 30 residents who couldn't leave their homes because they were trapped or surrounded by water. So, in March of this year, 24 firefighters over 3 different deployment requests that are still ongoing. I just received another one tonight on my way into the building. We're in Polk County in the Green River wildfire area. They also requested our Field Communications Unit to assist them as well to help with their communications networks that are down. Ongoing from January until March, it just concluded. We had 30-plus firefighters involved in the Western North Carolina waterways, where we supported the federal EPA through the State Emergency Management Agency here in North Carolina for the hazardous materials recovery of over 2,000 hazardous materials containers that were found in the French Broad and the river, the Pigeon River, all those areas as a result of the storm. So that could prevent a tremendous environmental problem for us in the future and open our waterways back up for recreation as we want. And finally, in this top picture here, you can see we have 2 of our firefighters within the Asheville Fire Department that are trained as helicopter rescue technicians. And it's a combination with the North Carolina State Patrol and also the North Carolina National Guard. Their job, they're on standby right now to rescue firefighters that get cut off from fires and wildfires. So if there's a medical emergency for one of our firefighters that are working the wildfires, or if they're cut off by fire, these folks, their job is to fly in. They're hoisted down and they would recover the firefighters are either injured or trapped and get them out to safety. So we have some very, very talented firefighters within the Asheville Fire Department. I'm very proud to stand here in front of you and brag about them. But unless there's any questions, most of the questions Chief Rogers will answer, because these are all these people report up through his Special Operations Bureau within the Asheville Fire Department. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And kind of in closing, before you all leave, I want to acknowledge our AFD staff for just being trained and having the incredible skill set necessary to respond and assist with these incredibly dangerous types of disasters and emergencies. I am so sorry, y'all. The finger is just so big. All right. Thank you, City of Asheville staff. We appreciate you. That concludes the manager's report.
Thank you. Thank you all for your work and for coming tonight to be recognized. I know that's even extra duty, so we appreciate you taking time to be here. Okay, we are now going to move to public comment. Everybody who's on the public comment portion of the agenda, this works just like all the rest of the public comment. You'll have 3 minutes to speak and watch the lights on the lectern. Green means go, orange, yellow, amber, whatever it is, means you're almost done, and then red means stop, which is very applicable to the next topic I think we're going to hear about, that is roads. Driving, got my traffic light, anyway, whatever. So the first person to speak is Wendy Ledgerton. The next 3 speakers, I will say, are speaking synchronously. Oh, that's the right word. So.
Yes, we're all together.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Wendy Ledgerton. I am principal of Ledgerton Architecture and president of the American Institute of Architects of Western North Carolina. I am also a citizen who has called Asheville home since 1988. Today, we want to speak briefly about the I-26 design process, its impact, and we want to request your support to bring back the I-26 underpass or an acceptable alternative. The decisions we make today will shape our city that future generations will inherit. The local design community is ready and willing to engage. We can do better than the currently planned overpass. We did it 14 years ago, and we need your support to honor that work and ensure a better outcome for the I-26 Padden Avenue Bridge for our city and for all of us who live here. First, a brief historical recap. From 2008 to 2011, the American Institute of Architects of Asheville led an I-26 design study that was community-driven, collaborative, and independently financed. Local residents, architects, landscape architects, elected officials, including many of you, NCDOT, and Housing Authority representatives all contributed to the Plan 4B, shown here, that stood for 14 years. Sometime earlier, in 2024, as our community was dealing with Hurricane Helene, this plan was replaced with the I-26 overpass, going over Padden Avenue without true community engagement. We understand budget realities. We as design professionals are committed to listening carefully and creating innovative solutions that improve our quality of life. In summary, please give us a chance to work with you and NCDOT to come to a better I-26 design that meets both budget and community needs. We can do it. I'm very grateful for my colleague Rachel Murdaugh, who's going to speak next, who made these slides. Here she is.
Hi, I'm Rachel Murdaugh, AIA.
Oh, hold on, we're resetting your clock.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Just a second.
Hi, I'm Rachel Murdaugh, AIA WNC member and co-founder of Citizens Coalition of West Asheville and resident of West Asheville. My family has deep roots in Asheville. We settled here in the Fairview area in the late 1700s. So I'm here to advocate for the transformative potential of design on our everyday lives. Asheville stands at a crossroads in its urban development. If we follow the path of least resistance, an overpass will geographically and symbolically divide our city, and our urban future will become collateral in a budgetary struggle, which, while legitimate, is a short-term consideration against the sweeping and permanent impact of the overpass. The other path at this crossroads leads to a future still within our grasp. A smart, innovative, and collaborative underpass will allow Asheville to flourish and unite across the river, creating a beautiful, safe, and healthy environment for all of us. We propose an extension to the budgetary review stage for the I-26 connector project so that local stakeholders and experts can collaborate with NCDOT to understand new budget constraints, optimize the design, and apply for grant funding to realize a solution that benefits all stakeholders and fosters the best urban future for our city. Finally, I would like to welcome my friend Dory Darris to speak.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, hello, my name is Dory Darris. I am a renewable energy operations manager, a resident of West Asheville, and the co-founder with Rachel of the Citizens Coalition of West Asheville. Rachel did a great job on these slides. I think pictures speak for themselves. So she has what the current view is on Patton, what a proposed overpass. It's 8 lanes of traffic, 12 lanes of concrete, including dividers and shoulders. And if we have an underpass, we'll have just more open space, more flexible, like multimodal modes of transportation on that route. They're the design experts, not I. But we're asking for your support to re-engage in a genuine participatory design process, one that respects community input, budget realities, and honors the intentions of the original agreement of option 4B. So some questions for you to consider. How can we advocate for an extension on the public comment period of the 2026-2035 State Transportation Improvement Plan that is currently funding this project? How can the city government work with NCDOT to ensure that local design community members are included in the I-26 decision-making process in a real and meaningful way? And how would you like the local design leaders, such as the American Institute of Architects, to engage in this process? So I'd say in this world, and nothing beautiful, innovative, or impactful comes easy, and Asheville's our home. So we're willing to work together to champion real solutions to create a more livable future for everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're not supposed to have any clapping at council meetings, but I hear your enthusiasm. Just do like this if you're, woo, okay. Robert Robinson. We've been wondering where you were.
Can I actually donate my time?
No, but you can.
No, we want to hear from
Somebody
you.
else can sign up to speak.
Okay, good. Hello, I'm back for a second. Whoever shouted it out last meeting, I did move to New York. That's true, but I am back here, and I will be from time to time, and I'm not totally checked out. I'm very invested in what's happening here, which is why I wanted to take a second to say thank you for doing some meaningful change in terms of zoning reform. I think it was really important what you all did last week. I also want to say I really appreciate you all pausing regulatory changes within legacy neighborhoods and based off of the anti-displacement work that the Missing Middle Housing Study did, because we've seen an inequitable distribution of both resources and regulatory protection in neighborhoods in Asheville for generations, and it's not right. Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. It's a the utmost importance to normal, everyday people in Asheville that we reduce the cost of housing by opening up supply. And I really appreciate that you all started also with transit corridors. That is essential. So, you know, this, I hope to see a version of Patton Avenue with lots of housing, with lots of people living there and who love the neighborhood. And then the last thing that I would say is I just feel like I got a little too much credit last meeting for conditional rezoning thresholds. That was not my idea. I take great joy in trying to take the complexities of land use policy and translate it to everyday people so that we can all understand what's going on. But it wasn't my idea. That was Planning and Zoning Commission. I've been working on that one for a while. So I would just encourage you to continue listening to the recommendations of PZC regarding housing reform. And then with that, I will also just say, I think that I-26 overpass issue is incredibly important. It is going to matter an extremely significant amount when it comes to the development of our transit corridors with the housing related zoning changes that you all have just passed. It's not going to be nearly as attractive or walkable or connected of a neighborhood to downtown with the overpass. So I guess the truly final thing that I'll say is throughout the I-26 connector process, there's an idea that we need to just kind of settle and not keep arguing about it because it's been going on since 1989 and the project has a purpose and need. I would just say you have to look at the history and look at who's doing the delaying because it's not any of the stakeholder groups that got involved in the 2000s, 90s and 2000s in order to improve the design of the project. It is NCDOT. And again, we have them going back on their word about something that they agreed to not to do 15 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really good. Good. Excellent. Thank you.
Can I ask legal a question real quick? I know I'm not really speaking back to any public commenter per se, but when the I-26 presentation came to us in a council meeting, a month ago or so, it was just in a manager's report, and I just kind of accepted the information, and we didn't take any formal action. Is there an opportunity for us to take action on something that I am missing? Because
I
I'm
would
also
join you in that, but we did request it, right?
I'm also upset about, just finding out in that manner, but is there an obligation or a role in city council to do something now?
Well, it's coming back for a follow-up,
Can I
right?
ask Brad?
The general answer I'll give to your question is that this is obviously not a City of Asheville project. This is a State of North Carolina Department of Transportation project. The city's role in terms of action to this point has been for consideration, and it was accepted for inclusion of some additional aesthetics improvements that the city helped fund as part of the final project. But the city has generally, as in the vast, vast majority of NCDOT projects, has no role in officially accepting or approving the final design concept.
So we were partaking in a process, giving input. They were allowing and respecting input for a while. Now have dropped the input. We have no control.
It remains within the unilateral authority of the state.
Thanks, Brad.
However, the presentation did skip the fact that it had changed to an overpass, and I appreciated that staff in our conversations had acknowledged that, and that's why we've requested, or at least I have, a follow-up presentation from DOT, which I understand they're willing to make.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
so I actually met with the DOT leadership in Raleigh about this issue and many issues, and I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. But I also then met with Nathan, the head engineer here as well. He walked through that whole process, why it seemed to come out of the blue. And when he kind of laid it out and I was able to ask some questions, it was a lot more clear to me. And just like what you said, Councilman Barone, he is open to listening and coming back and explaining to the public, how we got to this point. Again, I don't want to get anyone's hopes up that we could change anything, but certainly I think maybe a little bit more transparency would be helpful.
I wonder if that's something that could be extended to community, not council, but yeah. Okay.
It's a good idea.
Right. Yeah. Okay, are we, yeah, okay, back to, yeah, that was a little sidebar during public comment. Okay. Ruth Gaddy. They could go to MPO and do it there.
Hello, I'm Ruth Gaddy. I'm a resident of West Asheville. I am here to present, once the meeting has adjourned, some information that may help the homelessness problems, not in one spot, but several different spots. And I'm prepared, I can also come to the next meeting to give you more information about what possibly could be done to turn things around. I have brought information of food, shelter, mental health care, transportation. This is public information that is given out at Patton Memorial Library. Hopefully, if some weatherproof signs could be constructed at different places, once, I am not sure, especially on Patton Avenue, if all of you during the day, during a weekday or even a Saturday, could take the time to drive by the former Arby's restaurant, and then it's at the corner of Patton and Florida Avenue, the strip building where Starbucks Coffee is located. There are constantly people either with signs, camping on the former Arby's restaurant property, and if we, the city, could find out, I don't know if City of Asheville owns the land that Patton Avenue is on, or if the Department of Transportation owns it, but whoever the owners are, I don't know what the cost would be. This may take months, possibly years, to get this problem solved, but it might make it safer for the people that are walking on these strip medians, holding signs in all types of weather, plus the cars that are stopping, holding up traffic, rolling down their windows to give them money. That could also be made a safer situation. So I'll just wait until the meeting is adjourned. I know my time may be up soon to give you this information and start some ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just, on that note, tomorrow night is the membership meeting of the Continuum of Care. And that is the entity that is the entity over all things related to homelessness. And it's a consortium. It includes the city, the county, and other providers that are addressing the issue around homelessness. It'll be meeting at Harrah's Cherokee, the banquet room there tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and is open for public comment, so you can come and provide public comment. And those are the direct providers for homelessness services as well. So an even better place than City Council for a comment like yours. So just wanted you to be aware of that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Casey Gilbert.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. I'm Casey Gilbert. I'm an Asheville resident. I'm also the Vice President of Public Policy for the Asheville Area Chamber of Commerce. Our mission is to build community through business, and we proudly represent 1,700 member businesses. And I think it's a fact that people should know that 80% of our member businesses are small businesses with 20 or less employees. I don't know that everyone knows that about the Chamber, so I felt I would share that. In the wake of Hurricane Helene, the Chamber of Commerce raised $1 million for small business grants through the Mountain Strong Fund and through a partnership with Mountain BizWorks, who administered the grants, and in thanks to Buncombe County government and to you all who allocated funds, we raised about $4 million for small business grants that have been distributed to help our business community. So I want to thank you for that. These businesses experienced physical damages and economic injury, so they were really hurting after the storm. And the reason I'm here today is to thank you for including small business support, including grants in the city's draft CDBG DR action plan, and to encourage the council and staff to keep the spirit of this help alive
as funds are received and programs are developed. While the governor did allocate funding for Western North Carolina for grants, thank you, Governor Stein, grants have not been included in the state or federal disaster recovery bills, and many businesses have seen their insurance claims denied. So that's really compounding the challenge and the struggle of our businesses. So we recognize that there's so much need, from housing to infrastructure and replenishing the city's own shortfalls. So we're mindful of the challenge to both address and balance the scope of need as you navigate how this $225 million in funding will be allocated. So I want to thank you for what you've done to help our businesses weather both the environmental and economic storm. We recognize the efforts of the city, and the Chamber pledges to continue to use our team, our resources, our programs, and our networks to do what we can to retain, to nurture, and regrow our beloved business ecosystem. Please let us know how we can help. And a shout out to the staff and everyone working on the CDB GDR engagement process. They're doing an amazing job. So thank you, Manager Campbell, to you, to your staff. We recognize your efforts. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Joe Minicozy.
Is it possible to get the projector? And also I have some folks to give up time.
Joe, why don't we go to the next person and then we can get that fixed. Jared
Doesn't make
Wheatley.
sense, but I'll do what you say.
Oh, dang.
She just turned it on, now she's gonna turn it.
Making trouble. I don't mean to be in that kind of way. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Appreciate y'all letting me have a moment to speak. I'm Jared Wheatley, regular old knucklehead and resident. What I've got pulled up here is Daily Drive, and this is right off South French Broad. So South French Broad is running left-right on the phone, and then Daily Drive does this bend around. So this would be Southside United. And this is an image from October of last year. What I'd like to point out is that there's an ADU right here in the back of this house. And then just a few doors down, there's another ADU that the site is just graded, but that home's actually built now. And then just adjacent to that, there is another site being graded in this image. But what I've also done is gone and observed those houses and what they look like in the neighborhood. So what you'll see in the foreground here is the fabric and character of the neighborhood, the existing fabric and character. What you see in the background is the new atrocity being built. What's in the foreground would be considered probably naturally occurring affordable housing, part of the legacy neighborhood itself. What you'll see in the background is almost certainly not going to be occupied by a black family. If I had to guess, and I'm just a knuckleheaded contractor, I'm not like an architect or anything, that's probably about 5,000 square feet at least. It's 3 stories, got this really nice rooftop deck that somebody can look out over the city. That is not a part of the fabric of the community. Oh, my beautiful kids. I'm kind of glad you get to see that photo. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, we also just saw that too.
Streets,
I got it.
okay, calm down, everyone. So here's the ADU in the backyard, wow. You can see Aston Tower there, I don't know what it's actually called, I just call it the tower. You can see these two, once again, legacy neighborhood homes right in the foreground. And then in the background, you have this very square cubic structure with all this glass, and probably also not going to be what we would call attainable, affordable, or anything. And you can see there's a really tiny driveway here, which I don't know if that's going to be a future flag lot or not. It's tough to tell everything in life. It's really hard to know everything. But it looks like that has been already developed in the flag lot standards that were passed and approved last week. Thank you so much.
That's actually my childhood home right there in the middle, the green one.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm sorry for your loss.
Right.
Okay. Now we're to Paul Howell, and then we'll be doing Joe Minicozy.
Good evening, Mayor. Oh, ouch. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, city attorney, city manager, assistant city manager, and the glue that holds everything together in a different seat over here tonight, Maggie.
She's training.
Oh, you give me.
Because she's getting ready to leave you, Paul, one of these days.
Well, I'm gonna stop coming. When you leave, I'm gonna stop coming. Y'all be rid of me. I sit back there. I just came to listen tonight, but after listening to the council member that just recently got elected to the council, who has shown themselves to be unreliable and untrustworthy, say that they went and spoke with somebody on their own about this underpass project, I had to come up here and say something. Because, honestly, you're suspect. I mean, you just got on the board, the council, you just got on the council, and you're saying you're making moves on your own to speak with people. The moves that we have witnessed you make already was to turn your back on the legacy neighborhood one minute, or should I say vote with the legacy neighborhood one minute, then turn your back on the next, and then get on Facebook and take credit for something that you didn't do. So, I mean, it's suspect to me, I don't know. But I know one thing, for y'all to sit up here and go against the plans that y'all had agreed to, just to go with something else after all this time, is unfair to the people that y'all made these promises to. It seems like we're good for getting promises and always even better for having them broken. I mean, when is this council gonna start listening to your residents? The residents of this town. We care about this town. I've been here 64 years off and on. I've seen a whole lot of changes. I've seen good ones, I've seen bad ones. But I haven't seen nothing that is reflective and collective of the community of the residents here. Most everything that's done in Asheville is to appease somebody else. Like I said, this is our town. Only two people on this board, only two people on this council are original local residents of this town. So I know the rest of y'all do not really have much vested in Asheville, but take heed. We need our town. We need our leaders. We need to be reflective of our people. So before y'all go, like you say, getting your hopes up about something, let's try to get back to where we started at and get that approved and get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Joe Minicozy, and he will have 10 minutes. It's
Okay. Mayor, Council, thanks for having me. And I want to thank the folks that gave up their time. And I didn't coordinate with Wendy and Rachel. We should have, but we are coordinating to get together this week, actually. The old school is getting back with the new school. We're back on this project. So I'm here to maybe ask you to lift yourselves up and fight for our community and fight for all the folks that were part of this history that's gone back to 1985. I just, for the heck of it, put an asterisk next to every single time NCDOT caused delay. I got involved in 2003 when I saw Betty Lawrence stand at a city council meeting and talk about the Bowcatcher Cut. There was a lot of folks that fought the Bowcatcher Cut and proved that it was cheaper to do a tunnel. They actually took it to court and proved it was cheaper to do it in a tunnel than blow the mountain up. There are people that started this that are now dead that were pushing to get a better project here in Asheville. I'm not going to go through all of this, but we'll leave it for you. And by the way, Wendy was you're like a child when we first met 20 years ago when we put this design together. 20 years ago. This is from the guiding documents from the federal government. An idiot on the spot is worth more than a genius miles away. We're a bunch of idiots that got together, professionals, architects, landscape architects, engineers, and we're using the CCC report. I'm going to give you a copy of all this stuff. I'll send you the CCC report. This happened before I moved to town. It was in 2000. You'll see Brownie Newman and Mayor Bissett on this. And they asked to get Patton Avenue back. We got together as designers to produce a design to do that. One of the things that was also going on and contentious in the community was the trip count in West Asheville. Today, it's about 54,000 trip counts. They're projecting 76,000. Just for fun, I made this chart, and let me just walk you through this real quick. So this is 1980. They projected 54,000 trips by 1995. In green is the actual trips. And then for some reason, the trips dropped down to 68, but 4 years later, they shot the trips up to 143,000. So in 2004, when we were doing the design center, they were expecting 143,000 cars in West Asheville by 2028. The city actually called BS on that. Anthony Butzek asked the DOT to go back to the drawing board. It took 2 years later. They dropped it down to 99,000. You can see in green how the trips barely move. And then in 2010, for some reason, DOT jacked it back up to 122,000. In 2014, just for the heck of it, I had a summer intern with a college degree just do an average of the past 12 years to project it forward in blue. My intern was better at projecting trips than DOT. These are people who are giving you advice, professional advice, or so they say. I just want you to call question to that because here's what 127,000 trips looks like. It's 6 lanes. They were giving us a 122,000 trip highway that was 8 lanes, and we had to beg to get it to 6. This is the Salem Expressway in Winston-Salem, pulling 62,000 trips. It peaked at 82,000 in 2016. They're theoretically giving us a 76,000 trip highway at 6 lanes when Winston-Salem can do it at 4. This is what happened in 2008. We had to agree as designers. I don't know if any of y'all remember, we had a double-decker bridge. We were told that we couldn't do that, and they asked us to go side by side. We acquiesced to work with DOT in spirit of good faith. They started stretching the bridge to Patton Avenue in red here, and then between April and May of 2008 is when they shot it over the highway. That's when we pulled the plug. We said, we're not working with you anymore because that's uncalled for. It's also going to have a dramatic effect on Patton Avenue. If you're trying to redevelop Patton Avenue, no one wants to build next to a highway that's up in the air. So as designers, we know that. As folks that work in real estate, we know that. So it took us 2 years. These are the letters that Alan McGuinn from the AIA and our team member got, and you'll see here that NCDOT Representative Derek Weaver confirmed Alternative 4B will now include a design option for the corridor running under Patton Avenue. DOT Representative Derek Weaver confirmed that the interstate could be constructed under Patton Avenue with no additional cost to Alternative 4B. We worked with them for 2 years to get this. This became the LEPA. LEPA stands for the least environmentally destructive preferred alternative. The reason why we were doing this for y'all and for everybody in the community was to run the numbers on how much buildings we could get in our community. So you'll notice east and west. Now remember, this is something we created in 2009. $700 million of development. We'll get 1,400 units of housing, retail, office. We put a civic center down there for the heck of it. But that's going to produce 111 million taxes in city, county, and school taxes. When you do this, we are stuck with it for 50 years at least before we get another bite at this apple. This is what we're writing away in taxes if we don't do that development on Patton Avenue. It's about design, it's about walkability, it's about all these great things that we want to achieve. But this is what our community demanded in the year 2000. So, it's now going over the top of Patton Avenue. I counted the number of lanes here. It's about 20 lanes of asphalt wide across the highway. This is Sam's Club, that black bar. I just dropped Sam's Club to show you how wide that highway is. Imagine walking across all of Sam's Club with a highway above you. That's what essentially they're proposing. They're doing it because it's easier to construct. That was the only reason they gave us back in 2008. Nothing in the law says we have to do the cheapest thing possible. It says the least environmentally destructive preferred alternative. On the east side of the river, for some reason, 240 is 4 lanes of moving traffic here. It's 8 lanes of moving traffic here, and it's 10 lanes of moving traffic here. They're not adding any new introduction of roadway onto 240, yet somehow it metastasizes to 10 lanes of moving traffic by Hillcrest. Completely unnecessary. Again, in their mind, what they want to do is widen 240 through downtown. Is that something that you all want? They're essentially putting a fire hose into a garden spigot in our downtown. This was something we called them out on 20 years ago and said this is not acceptable for our community, make it fit. It's actually in the CCC report. So as we talk about this highway, it's not just the west side, it's the east side too. You know, I work in economics. I have an international firm that does this. Several of my team are here. We do great stuff. This is a taxpayer, this is unacceptable. On the right, this is their whole economic impact statement to our entire community for a $1 billion project. They basically talk about, we're gonna lose a little bit of right-of-way. They don't talk about any of the effect of the highway on adjacent real estate. Right here is what they've written about the gray bat. One bat gets more ink than our entire economic analysis. So back to the law. This is what the NEPA says. Procedures must ensure that environmental information is available to the public, officials, and citizens before decisions are made and before actions are taken. The information must be of high quality, accurate scientific analysis, expert agency comments, and public scrutiny are essential to implementing NEPA. We need to scrutinize this stuff. We need to see what kind of impacts are going on. We haven't had that. Again, the law, cost-benefit analysis, this is owed to us. We have to discuss the relationship between the analysis, doesn't say maybe do this, between the analysis and any unqualified environmental impacts, values, and amenities. What's the impact to sound with a raised highway above adjacent real estate? For the agency to comply, they have to have an interdisciplinary team that are trained in the environmental design arts and planning and decision-making. They will give you engineers all day long. They are not qualified to give you this information. Mr. Moneyham is not an attorney, he's not a designer, he's an engineer. So we need to know what kind of effects are going to happen on the land use. Again, this is all law. So, okay, our crack commando team, Andrew Fletcher, shout out to him, 5 minutes, pulled up this sound study from Texas DOT. Here it is, it's very boring, but look at this chart. This is an at-grade highway, elevated highway, depressed highway. At-grade, elevated, depressed. In every instance, the depressed highway from 50 feet adjacent to 150 and 250, you see a dramatic drop in sound adjacent to it. You'll note here that they state, I don't know if we can zoom into that, let's see. As studies have shown, improvements increase property values. So as you put it down in the trench, it increases the property values adjacent to the highway. This is why people are upset. Incidentally, 22 years ago, this is one of the drawings in one of our presentations. You'll notice there's a trench highway.
Can you zoom out?
Oh, sorry. This is an old slide, but this was the intention. Just keep it in a trench, and then we could build around it. So I'm just going to ask you, support our community. Let's have a public conversation on this.
We're in training over here, sorry.
I'm done.
Was that 10 minutes?
That was 10 minutes.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. I tried. All right, council, that concludes our agenda, and we actually did our closed session before, which is great. And even though all we had was a consent agenda, we still managed to make this a longer than an hour and a half meeting, so
Longer than the
that's,
county's last whole meeting.
that's pretty amazing. All right, we are adjourned.
We,